Welcome back, everybody, to me rambling about the Wheel of Time, and we're getting so close. This will be Towers of Midnight, chapters 23 to 33. Yep, that's how far I am along with this right now, and yeah, let's have us a bit of a discussion on all the wonderful things happening here. Ray? Well, cheers. All right. So, what do we get in these wonderful chapters? I mean, we're still going on with that whole trying to unify everyone, getting shit done kind of thing. We have a bit of Rand going on. We have a lot of Perrin here. We have a little of Matt and Elaine. And a bit of Egwene. That's like roughly what we get in these chapters. It's the usual thing. It's slow, and then suddenly we have action and shit, which is part of what we need to talk about today. So here we go. Let's start with Elaine, because that's weird things going down there, and it's always good to be kind of angry about something. I thrive on that. So let's look at what happens with Elaine. Elaine decides to test her fox head medallions and to go and question the Black Aja sisters that she has still in prison, and do that all on her own without talking to anyone. And isn't that a really clever idea, right? So here we go. This obviously goes spectacularly wrong. She gets attacked by Doylin Mellar, who was in prison, in theory, but and survives barely and learns nothing about it. Now let's talk about this and why it is bad, but maybe not for the reasons that you might think. And this is, on the surface, after her last experience, with with being captured by the Black Aja, you'd think Elaine would be a bit smarter and maybe not do everything on her own or without talking to anyone. On the other hand, it's something that we've seen Rand do as well, for a different, for a different reason, however. We talk about that in a minute as well. So, and it goes wrong again. And the argument there is that Elaine's behavior is irrational. Some may even call it stupid. I've heard people call it stupendously stupid or idiotic and worse things. And there's a bunch of reasons here why this is, why this may come across as that, and why I think that's giving a disservice here. So what do I mean by that? Yes, on the surface, Elaine's actions are certainly extremely rash, and certainly not very smart. Especially since her, what she does actually does not work. And that's, I feel, where we have a problem, right? So, rashness in general, yeah, why not? Even Elaine's argument that, yes, Min's viewing has seen that, she will have healthy kids, so she will be all right, and basically invulnerable, basically immortal until the day of her kid's birth, has some weird merit to it. And I feel like a bunch of things should be important here. First of all, yes, if we set up the fact that Min's viewings always come true, that's maybe not the smartest way or not thought hard about, because yeah, you can construct cases in which Elaine, the fact that her kids will be born healthy does not actually, claim that much about Elaine. Yeah, she could be captured and held in captivity for the rest of her pregnancy and all of these things. That's all possible, right? And that's reasonable arguments there. The problem is that no one ever talks about prophecies in that way, because it's something that we've missed and never managed to, actually, explore in the series. And that's certainly a problem that can be laid mostly at the feet of Robert Jordan, who set up Mim's viewings and other forms of prophecy, like Egwene's dreams in the first book. Well, Egwene's dreams in the second book, I think, but you know what I mean, right? He sets up that crap really early on and just plays it straight for the entire series up to now, right? We have that whole situation. Min's viewings so far have all come true. We have that scene in Dragon Reborn. Yeah, Dragon Reborn at the beginning, when Min sees that one of those traveling people of the Tuathon will die, and she then just straight up gets murdered, and later situations with the White Tower collapsing, all of these things, they always come true straight. And that's a problem, because prophecy, if you want to use prophecy in your book, I'm all for it. But then you need to figure out how prophecies work. A, are prophecies real and always come true? B, is it more like the self-fulfilling prophecy, or someone knowing about a prophecy trying too hard to fulfill them, or the prophecy coming true in a very different way than you might expect, or anything like that? That would be reasonable, especially since we're talking about a story that is all about prophecy, right? The basic idea is that there is the prophecy about the Dragon Reborn, Rand al'Thor, who has to do all these things and fulfill all these certain prophecies to then, go and die on Mount Doom, basically. And then it's just played straight. So why would anyone in this world, at this point, reasonably, doubt that those prophecies and viewings about them will not come true? Because there's no like mythology around it. There's no past. There's no evidence of prophecies being a twisty thing. No, they're all played straight all the fucking time. And in that case, the actions are sort of like okay. And that's a mistake a general mistake of the series, because it leaves a wonderful thing, a wonderful part for your book, the way how prophecies can be twisted, how prophecies can be used by everyone, and so forth. It leaves that whole thing untapped, which could have been used for so many glorious, cool parts of the story. And B, it just makes the how can Elaine be so stupid part come across as weird. Because if you're looking on her level, yeah, of course she'll be fine, and she has no reason to doubt that. She has no reason to think beyond. Yeah, it'll come true all straight up. She doesn't have that, because there's no mention of any stories of where people got prophesied something and then it came true in a very, very different way. All of that has been left on. So why would she react that way? Is my point. The second part is the way it is set up. And the way it is set up is that Elaine does a lot of rash things, thinking that she'll be invulnerable until the kids are born. And all of them fail. And I'm like, if you want to have her go somewhere weird, do something rash, and then fall into some sort of trap, what you should do as a writer is first make her do something rash, following the belief that she's, she can't be harmed until that day, and succeed, and let her get away with it, because that bolsters that belief. And at that point, she will certainly, actually follow through with that, because so far it's worked, right? It's that whole like I'm immortal so far. It's like why would empirical data suggests that even I am immortal. I have woken up every day so far. I've not died yet. It's pretty clear that I am certainly an immortal. See, and that's a problem with this series that is sort of built into the fact that women can never succeed at their plans and have to always overreach and get punished and humiliated for it. Because, why not let her get away with something like that first attack on the Black Aja. Why not let her get away with that and let that bit succeed? Because that will certainly, I mean, it's rash, and people even tell her it's rash, but then she goes through with it and would, in that hypothetical world, right? She'd go through with it and succeed, and that would certainly make her next rash action more, workable. But no, she gets caught and so forth. And selling that is harder. Like, yes, in her thought, she still believes that, yeah, she survived that barely without any consequence. And I guess the point there is that once again, we don't talk about like all the people that die there. Elaine just never really thinks about that, or we never hear her think about that, which is normal because I guess no one really thinks about like common soldiers in these books, except Matt. Which makes him probably the Matt and Perrin, which makes those two the most reasonable characters in the entire series, which is kind of sad. So there is no consequences for Elaine's failing at the end of Knife of Dreams, right? In her mind. The problem for the reader, however, is that seeing the whole disaster, which we get through Brigida's perspective mostly, and all the things that go wrong, it feels like failure, and for us, the reader. Plus, it is a repetition. She goes somewhere, puts herself in danger, gets captured, gets freed, and then she does the same thing again. And that's why it comes across as so stupid, and why it feels so weird. Is like it is basically the same plot line again. Elaine deciding to do something on her own because she thinks she can't be harmed, and she has to be strong and do things on her own, which is exactly what she's done all the way until she became queen. So there's all these like backup reasons for her to do that, and then we just like go through the same fucking thing again. Her doing something stupid, getting caught, and almost killed, and then Matt and Brigida basically saving her. And yeah, that's bad writing. Set it up in a different way. Don't have like the same thing happen like so in such like a short time, right? It's like, I mean, she doesn't even show up in the Gathering Storm at all. She doesn't even, I mean, yeah, she's got like no paragraph in the entire book. So basically, the first two scenes, there's like almost no scene, like actual larger Elaine scene between her doing her stunt at the end of Knife of Dreams and her doing and pulling her stunt here. And that's like the next part. Is like why this feels so weirdly wrong and stupid and willfully stupid by Elaine as a character, is because it's like basically the two scenes that are basically next to each other. Yes, she has a short conversation with Matt before that, but that's about it. Everything else, and I'm like, doesn't she ever learn? And I'm like, if there would be like a lot of other things happening in between those two scenes, or those two like smaller plot lines, subplots, whatever you want to call them, it would also not feel as bad, or yeah, in a lot of ways. And so I'm like, yeah, it comes across as like stupid actions by a character, but we need to look back and it's like, why is that character acting that stupid? Do Robert Jordan and Brandon Sanderson want us to think that Elaine has basically shit for brains? Or is the effect due to all kinds of other issues in the writing? Because, no one mentioning her pregnancy when she tells everyone about the plan to go for the Black Aja. Not giving us like a scene where Elaine realizes the cost not to herself but to everyone else after her like adventure at the end of Knife of Dreams. All of these things could have been like done with minimal effort, because we know that Elaine is someone who cares about other people. It has been, built up as part of her character for the entire series. Her giving away money to everyone, her caring about poor people, to the point when Nynaeve gets pissed off that Elaine is giving away all her money, and all of these things. It has been built in all the time. And then not giving her a scene where she realizes the cost of her rash actions, the cost to other people is what I mean, right? Her not realizing that is missing out, because it would have been totally in character for her to realize that yes, she may have survived because of Min's viewing, but thousands of people have died. That would have made sense. And that's the problem here, is like the character acting the way she does is something you could explain. It's all these small bits around it that make her act look so irrational and you know willfully stupid in a lot of ways. And the fact that it's basically happening twice in a row, and that's once again like another thing. It's like if there had been all kinds of other stuff, her succeeding in between, it would also not have felt that like weird. And that's a writing issue. That's not a character issue in a lot of ways, because it's the job of the editor and the writer to make sure that those character decisions feel reasonable or follow an internal logic. And if that internal logic is only, yeah, well, I'll be immortal until my kids are born, that's a very narrow one. And if you want to put all of it on that one thought, then you might need to actually spend a bit more time explaining why that is the entire motivation. That would have been, and that's on the authors in this case, and the editor. So yeah, that's my defense for Elaine's actions there. The rest of it is still kind of stupid, and as I said, it's bad writing to have like the same action basically happening twice in a row. It's just, even if it would have worked in both cases, it would still feel like, why do the same thing twice? This is, it's just repetitive in general. So there we go. Then we get attempts at humor, which means she's bedbound for like 1 week because, she's pregnant, lest we forget. So she lets herself be carried around on a bed because humor. No. But, we get like a demonstration of the cannon, which could have been done like much shorter because, yeah, fuck it. We know how cannons work, but we get like a long ass chapter where nothing happens except like Elaine being pulled up on the wall, looking at the demonstration of the cannon, having the cannon not fire once but fire twice, and this is once again like what I would call bad pacing in these books, especially in this one, I feel, which is we have these parts that are slow, where nothing much happens. Like exactly that one with the cannon. Yes, we know those cannons will be built, So having an entire chapter, not like an entire chapter, but like a larger part of a chapter and a long-ass paragraph all about showing us how cannons work is basically a waste of space. It's a waste of paper. Because in other chapters, suddenly we need to rush really fast to get all these things sorted out, all these smaller plot lines figured out, sorted out, and whatnot, to, actually, get to that end within like a reasonable page count. We have all these other plot lines that need to be ended or unified or put, drawn together to get like a coherent ending. And we spend a lot of time with stuff like that. Case in point, Perrin and Hopper. Perrin is learning how to use the wolf dream, which is, the dreamlands, which we've heard about, before. And he has to figure out how to be himself there, not to enter the thing too much. All of these things that we've heard about so many times before. But now we get like every Perrin chapter starts with like a training montage, him jumping around as a wolf in these places and learning stuff. And that's way too drawn out for something that could have been, for pages that could have been spent for other things, to have like a more even pace. Instead, we get him like fighting nightmares twice, and we've heard about like how nightmares are fought in the Dreamlands before, when we have the scene with Nynaeve all the way back in, well, it must have been somewhere post Shadow Rising, maybe Fires of Heaven. or Lord of Chaos, one of those, right? When they are in the White Tower and have their White Tower scene with Swan Sanche and Shiriam and some others being drawn into that nightmare. So we know about the nightmares and that you have to go in there and like assert your reality on the Dreamlands. We as readers know that. Now, sure, Perrin doesn't know that. So having Perrin learn that, sure, that's cool. But it's like an entire mini scene when he, goes in there for the first time, and then we have the same thing, him fighting a different nightmare a couple of chapters later, and I'm like, yeah. But this is like a 800-page book, and we spent all this time with repetitions of stuff that we already know, and then we have other chapters where suddenly things go super quick. We're like, all right, maybe even out the pace. And my suspicion here is that this is exactly the problem of having Sanderson fix up and finish up Robert Jordan's stuff, because as far as I know, Sanderson's always said there are like some chapters that are, or paragraphs that are fully written, and others where he just has notes. And it feels like he has these scenes written by Robert Jordan of Perrin doing weird shit with the wolf somewhere, and then somewhere again, and then somewhere else again. And having all of that, and those are already fairly well written out, so he can't just like scrap all of them and just drop them, because you have to obviously keep as much Robert Jordan in there as is possible, because we have to pay all this respect to the dead. You can't just like cut down all the stuff that Jordan had already written and claim that it's crap, so you just leave all of it in, and then you need to rush in between those bits, those more atmospheric bits that fit very well to the style that we had in Crossroads of Twilight and Knife of Dreams, where things moved also very, very slowly. But then we have like in between, we have these like moments when he just like rush and solve something by mass murder or whatever. That's my guess, because I don't know which parts are generally like 100% Bobby J, which parts are like 100% Brandon Sanderson, and which are like a mix-up. I don't know, but that's an explanation for me, because it feels very unevenly paced at this point in the books, and that's something that I personally, it's bothering me. And yes, the wolf stuff at this point feels just really drawn out, because it's no longer foreshadowing. We just know that Slayer will kill Hopper, right? We just know at this point. We got the first bit when he's hunting the stag, and so we get reinforced that, everyone who dies in the dream world will die, which we already knew before, but right? We know that. And then we have, and can't be reborn in the case of wolves, we know already. We knew that. Then we get the scene where Slayer actually kills a wolf, and Perrin saves the wolf. And Perrin is like, I gotta kill that dude. And now he's getting, trained up by his old wise senpai, right? That's sort of like by his old wise master. It's very much like Karate Kid, right? That's how it works. He has his like old wise master Hopper training him up, and we get all these training montages, and he's probably like cleaning cars and stuff in the Dreamlands as well. And then he just, it'll come to the big fight, or like the second to largest fight. Hopper will die, Perrin will swear vengeance, and then in the next big fight after that, he'll actually defeat Slayer. That's my prediction for the Perrin Hopper storyline. And see, that's a good storyline by stretching it out this far and making it this fucking obvious. It becomes too predictable. It's the problem that I had with like Shadow of the Gods, a part of these books here as well. It's like, if I see a plot line, a plot twist, a plot development coming 100 pages in advance, or in this case, almost like a book in advance, I guess, or whatever, we don't know. Like 100, 200 pages in advance, it's no longer a plot twist. And by that point, I just get tired, and I want this to be over with. I want this to be, done with. Because while for a moment it's really cool to have like an animal companion there, it kind of harkens back to, the whole like Jungle Book situation where, what's his name, Mowgli, however you pronounce that guy, gets trained up by the wolves and by the bears and has animal companions teaching him stuff. It's a staple of like classic literature at this point in a lot of ways. despite all the awful things that you can attach to Rudyard Kipling, that's not the point here. But Jungle Book kind of thing with wise animals teaching the main character something, and having that like turned into like a more like martial arts kind of movie kind of thing, with him just learning fighting techniques and stuff. Vibes well with the general idea of having like a lot of combat in these books. Modeled after or like leaning towards martial arts, like the whole like sword fighting movements, right? That their names and all of that, right? So having that bit is actually a clever idea. It's like having Harper train him there, and he doesn't call him Grasshopper. He calls him Harper calls parent Cub, but the idea is great, but the execution sucks because we stretch it out so fucking long. There's no need for that. Look, I get it. Most people should actually get where this is going at this point. And that's just like, I don't know, annoying. All right, let's pick the next bit out that I got like annoyed by. The end of the Golem. Alright, the Golem doesn't make any sense as a character, unless that fucker shows up again. So here's the thing, we have a Golem. Possibly it's the one that kills that like scholar in Kyrian, whose books may or may not be really important for Rand to figure out stuff, because he kind of claims that we need to, clear up the rubble to start over again with the boar and everything. And before he can tell Rand, he gets killed by the Golem. Maybe. And then the Golem just fucks around in, what's this place? Ebudar, and gratuitously kills people. So Matt has this vendetta with him, especially when he kills Tylan, which is not a very nice idea to have, like, Tylan in the past just be, killed by the Golem. Because she was in the way or whatever, and we have like she was basically in the way for the whole Tuan plotline, which is also going nowhere right now. And then he just shows up, kills a bunch more people that are really not important, like, some guardsmen and his like servant there, like groom, buddy servant, whatever you want to call him, and then Matt just kills him in a fairly boring way. So yeah, he pretends to do like this combat. He has these like all these what they're called, those Terangrial, those amulets that he got copied from by Elaine. He has all of them, and then he just like drives him into this like portal and kicks him down into like a hole. And that's also like bad writing there, because yes, that's in theory, that's a cool idea to get rid of a very, very powerful character, like enemy, like adversary. It's like, yeah, we'll not, overpower him just by sheer force, because that takes away some of that, the dread of that character. So instead, what we set up is a way to trick our way around it, which is, in this case, let him drop into eternity. So maybe he'll like live for the rest of like eternity, however long that is, if think that maybe the Dark One will break the pattern and everything in a couple of pages. But still, that idea is pretty cool. But I always feel a bit cheated, because yeah, Matt tells Elaine that the Golem is in town, and that's it. And yeah, having not everything planned out really well or whatever, and having that sort of surprise of the combat kind of thing, when you realize afterwards that all of it was planned, that's a nice or like okay-ish. That's it's a special technique in literature that you see sometimes when you like figure out what happened from like afterwards. But I personally am more satisfied if there were more hints. For example, he has like the people from the kin in there. If there had been like any hint that they planned to do something about the Golem together, that would have really helped to, set this up. When you see like people planning something, or not, you don't need the details of the planning, but have like a scene where Matt not only tells Elaine that the Golem is in town, but maybe also have Elaine talk with the kin, or tell them that the Golem is in town, or whatever. Have anything like that set up. Would have really been cool. But instead, we don't get any of that. We just like get that scene, which is, and this is like another thing, where that combat scene is very, very computer gamey, right? It feels like the whole idea of like going there, like luring him somewhere, having that combat mapped out the way it is. Like we start out with that, and then we lure him, let him follow the flames of Talmana's lamp, and set that place on fire, jump through the door, let him run in there, and then he's on the platform. We kick him off the platform, which really looks like Soul Calibur, Soul Blade, or whatever edition of that, where you could kick people out of their arena and stuff like that. It feels choreographed in a very computer gamey way, which is something that I feel is very much Brandon Sanderson's idea and not so much a Robert Jordan thing. Because what it also reminds me of is the way he describes combat, especially magical combat, in Mistborn, which is also very computer gamey in a lot of ways, or gamey in general. And well, it's something I personally don't really like. I can see the appeal, especially if you're a heavy gamer, but because it's something familiar that you can latch onto, but I personally would have preferred it handled in a different way. Plus, the whole Golem storyline is basically go somewhere, kill two people, kill two semi-important people, and yes, he killed some other people that have names, but still, kill two semi-important people, and then get killed off. And it once again feels like someone didn't want to extend that Golem plotline any further, or didn't have like any further notes by Robert Jordan what should come of that Golem. So Brandon Sanderson just like kills him off, so he gets rid of another plotline, which is exactly what I mean by having things feel rushed. Yeah. There's still like, more like Egwene things going on that she's, still plotting against Rand, because, Rand's planning this evil thing, and we have all of that stuff going down. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. She'll have her moment of humiliation anytime now. I can just like see her realizing that she was wrong, but it'll take a bit. It'll take a bit longer. We already know that she is certainly miscalculating with Messana and the assassins. We get like our final, confirmation of that with the Gawain scene when Gavin finds out that the knife is a Shanshan knife, and he sends a warning, but he doesn't come back to Egwene because he doesn't want to be bossed around, which, yeah, I get it. Be a bit sulky, you're only like 20, like the rest of those kids. And I'm pretty sure this will have some sort of consequences. He'll still rush in the last moment whatsoever, save Egwene, and then be bonded as her warder because she finally realizes that she can't fully control Gawain. That's how I predict this one will work out. But I guess we'll learn more about it tomorrow. So let's look at the last thing before I want to end this for today. And that's the whole siege of Minas Tirith, or is it the siege of Helm's Deep? It's the siege of that place in the Borderlands that is overrun by the Trollocs. They're now in there. They're having like a long ass combat in the city. We already know that, of course, the Lordling in that town is a Darkfriend. We know from the first second, because yes, everyone is always immediately a Darkfriend. You know these kind of things. Darkfriends are everywhere, and most of them can be picked out easily. And if they can't be picked out easily, it's because you have not actually met them. See the torturer dude in Camelin, whom we've heard so much about, but when he shows up for the first time, he's already a Darkfriend. Wonderful. That's not how you do that shit. Right. Anyway, and with that lording, we know, of course, he's a dark friend who, consciously prevented Ituralda to enter the city and all these things. Yeah, well, what happens is, Ituralda holds out far beyond any reason and whatnot, and then Rand shows up with, what's his name? Yeah. Bashir, Devron Bashir, and then just kills everyone, like, with the power. And this goes into, like, a general Rand situation where the whole Rand Jesus analogy becomes more and more of an issue that pisses me off. We have that whole, like, him being enveloped by darkness, and then his inner light breaks through that we see through Perrin's eyes. Which, yeah... So tell me again how Cadsuane is important. Cadsuane was important for that? I don't know. And then we have him go to Bandar Eben, where he, feeds the poor, which is a classic Jesus thing, right? Feeding the poor out of, like, supposedly non-existing food, restoring order, and all of that. Then he goes there and he just, like, kills millions of Trollocs, hundreds of thousands of Trollocs by magic in one go, because he can. Now he can. It's like, why? Is all what makes him, like, super uber magic-y now something that he couldn't do back in the day when he was just when he was attacked by 10,000 Trollocs? Why can he now defeat, like, even more of them? Is it because he's now even more divine and everything? Is this a religious story with lots of blood? I don't know. Plus, of course, having mass combat with, like, fireworks is just boring as fuck. There's not that many ways to describe how one man is using magic to, mass murder hundreds of thousands of enemies that are interesting. It's like, fire, lightning, ice, fire, lightning, ice, death gates. See? Brandon Sanderson, in his need to more, hard magic system the fuck out of every bit of imagination, obviously comes up with new names for all these spells, which is something that Brandon Sanderson never did. What Robert Jordan never did, right? And it's like, unnecessary and boring, but hey, at least Ituralda gets his king back, which, pretty neat. So there we go. We're rushing towards the end while taking breaks for really boring or really drawn out scenes that make the wait for the actual end, a chore. Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Morghese. Morghese is actually recognized by Gallard, and now she's about to judge Perrin for whatever Perrin did. And we already know where that shit's going, right? It's like, because Gallard is nice, the only one who smells nice, not such a fanatic, so we can finally get those fanatics back on the right path of the White Cloaks, of course, Bayar and Bornhold, right? Got those two all the way back into the light, at least one of them, or maybe both, or at least the rest of the Children of the Light, through Morghese and Perrin and other stuff, and it'll work out in the future in some way. There'll be some sort of drama before. He'll probably, sentence Perrin to death, and then there will be some, like, wonderful feat that Perrin does before Gallard does whatever, and then they will become brothers in arms and good friends and whatever. Because we need to have the White Cloaks be good, after all. Oh yeah, we also get, like, another bubble of evil, which is just boring bullshit. It's like, at this point, we can just, like, stop describing them. Yeah, we know they exist, but I don't care anymore. Really, I just don't care anymore about it. But at least Elaine is now in love with Gallard, so we have our, like, two poster children out there as well. I guess that's good. We'll just never comment on the fact that people look at each other for the first time and are hopelessly in love, and that will all come true at the end. Because it's shit. Anyway, nothing too egregious, because I guess at this point we're just mostly done with that. because we've covered everything, so I guess we're good there. But more annoying bits and pieces just like go nowhere, or bad editing, or could have been handled better, and yeah. Can't wait to be done with this shit. Anyway, hope you had a good day. I'll see you tomorrow. Cheers.